I just woke up.
Really? Oh,
Wow.
just got out of the shower. Well, welcome to
right.
Over 50 Starting Over, everyone. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Earl Garrison.
And how are you? Yeah, like I said, you seem like you're in a mood today. Have a good week. You had a good week, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. It's been a great week this week.
I could tell.
It's fast and furious. Lots of things going on. Business is going great.
Love that.
And, life is good. And it's Friday.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything to me.
Why not?
My days are all the same until I'm racing the clock to April 24th when my new runners come in. And, I almost never know what I'm going to talk about in the upfront segment about career and self-improvement. That's generally what we talk about until I'm in the shower and I'm or even at the gym thinking about it. And so I wanted to talk about this, so I rent this house out, and it's a great thing. Ideally, I started with Airbnb, and it'd be like have people in for a week, 2 weeks, or a month, and then I come in and I clean and repair and upgrade. And so I love that because you got this investment that it incentivizes you to continue to improve it and increase its value. And I probably love it most because it's something that gives, instead of sitting behind a computer constantly for my entire source of career and income.
Yeah.
I get to
get out there.
Physically,
use your hands and everything.
Yeah. And
I like that too.
Yeah. So I think it's a really good balance. And third, I think it's good for a relationship. So I've been here it's going to be like a total of 3 weeks. And, first thing I did is rushed out and got some ribeye steaks, a couple cases of beer, some cigars, and
you're all set.
Yes. And Lisa then embarked on her spring cleaning, which she does feverishly, and to the point where it causes aches and pains, to say the least. But so she gets to sit in the house with it being to her standard of clean, because when I'm there, she's obsessed with fingerprints. And
I see. So she's moved you out of the way, so that as she's cleaning up, you're not like messing up what she just cleaned up, so that she gets peace of mind. And then you, on the other hand, get to do a similar thing in the house, the other house, and
from the man point of view.
And you got steak and cigars. Here. Jeez. There's a man paradise over there.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. So, but what I want to also say about that from a piece of advice point of view is, boy, the power of list building. The power of list building is irreplaceable. So
tell me more.
Well, okay. So the first week or so was just cleaning feverishly to make it habitable, because my last runners were so awful. And
hold on, let's stop there, because I thought these guys were pretty good guys in the house.
Good guys, but they're young
good guys.
And
young.
They clearly never cleaned a thing. Ever. And it was disgusting.
They never cleaned a thing, and they lived there for how long?
6 months.
Oh, man.
It was disgusting. It really was. So there was that. So I just had to clean to make it habitable. Right. And then when I got in here, then it was like, and they broke all kinds of stuff.
They really?
They really did. So I've had to, I just see something and go and repair it. And I was for another week, I was in that mode of whatever I see first. It's chaos. It's not good.
Yeah.
So then the last week I started the list. So pull out my iPhone, pull up the notes, and everything I thought about and everything that I saw, I made it. I made a list of and kind of tried to prioritize it so that I knew what I had to do. I knew when I went to Home Depot, the stuff that I had to get to make everything efficient. And then for the first time ever, I didn't delete the items. I would just cut them out of that list and then paste it into a list at the bottom, a few paragraph returns down, so that I see the accomplishments.
Oh, So like a psychological trick. You're
oh yeah, and boy does it work. Boy does it work, because every day I look at my list and like, man, how can I knock like 3 of these items off of here and put it into my done list? Yeah, it's really, really handy.
That's pretty cool
for organization purposes. It's yep.
Now,
It's go ahead.
Do you are you just, you mentioned your iPhone and your iPad, so are you just using your notepad to make this? Or are you using a special app or anything?
That's funny. I don't have an iPad. I don't have a notepad. It's just
I thought iPhone. I heard you say, oh, okay.
I have a laptop.
iPhone. It's your
It's my iPhone. And no, just the regular notes app.
No, when I said notepad, that's what I meant, is that app.
Notes. The notes app that comes with the phone.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's super simple. I need to do everything simple. Yeah.
Me too.
So,
but today you got an app for everything. So I thought maybe
you do. Yeah. Too many. I'm not one to just willy-nilly download apps, and I'm not. I don't like cluttering up my phone, because then you can't find what you're looking for. I like to everything. I like to make things as simple as possible.
Yep.
So I only have until the 24th until they get here, and I got a lot of stuff to do yet. And then, of course, the last 2 days will be the final huge cleaning. And I've always been more, I literally, I call it disinfecting. Cleaning is one thing, but man, I make sure everything is just disinfected. So that takes a lot of time.
Yeah. And I mean, what a great service that you provide for your next guests that are coming over. So let me ask you this, Barry. As you're talking about this, I'm thinking about our audience. I'm thinking about me, like, hey, what if I were to do that and have this house? So, your house is your personal house. I mean, this is something that you've had for years and years now, and you've put your life's blood into this house. Yes. So now you got these guys come over. It's a profitable situation, but they didn't clean for 6 months, and I don't know. I mean, there's something inside of me that would want to. I don't know how comfortable I would be with that. Now, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with? Are there emotions you have to deal with,
yes.
or how do you tell me how you deal with that and how you reconcile? You mentioned broken things in your house, and I can imagine how that could turn me into a bear.
Very good points. Very good questions. Because emotionally, it. Because I'll also say, I don't even have words strong enough for it.
Yeah, right.
Because Lisa and I just got this place exactly where we wanted it. I remodeled every wall, ceiling, and floor of this house myself. And
I remember early on. I mean, gosh, it was back when I lived there, and that was forever ago.
Right around the turn of the century. To be
right around the turn of the century. That sounds like,
I know,
a million years.
It was. Ago. I think I bought it in 99, maybe 98. Right. Yeah. But see the hardwood floors behind me? That's all me. Yeah, everything.
That's cool.
So we just got the place where we wanted it. Lisa helped me decorate to the highest level, and we bought new furniture. I mean, brand new sofa, matching leather sofa, couch, and all of that. And I got really nice furniture from her mom when she moved to Florida, dining room table and stuff like that.
Right.
And so to see that scuffed up, and things like a toilet handle broken off.
Okay, that sounds like there was alcohol involved.
Yes. I think I said this in a podcast before. They were very young. I think at least one of them had a drinking problem. And when you're in your early 20s and you're drinking hard alcohol, man, that's, you're not prepared for that. So I think there's a tough guy thing.
It's like the only time in your life that your body can kind of handle that, though.
I don't know. There's you get tolerance to it, or experience of better back off kind of thing. When you're really young, you start getting delusions of grandeur and yeah. So
you're not speaking from experience there.
Not at all. Not at all. So there was a lot of, it's to answer your point directly, it feels so disrespectful.
Yeah.
Violated.
Yeah,
Disrespectful,
there you
man.
Right, right.
So yeah, very angry about that. But I had an $1,800 security deposit, and that's supposed to incentivize you to behave like a rational human being.
Right.
Well, they clearly were like, well, we're never going to see the security deposit. So
right.
Yeah.
Wow. So do you just see that as a sort of a hazard of the profession? I mean, the investment.
It's
one of those things you just have to deal with.
Kinda. I thought I learned my lesson early on. I tend to be like a very trusting person, and I think I give people more credibility than I should up front. I should be more skeptical. I'm not. And I thought I learned my lesson earlier on about never rent to somebody that's too young, like around in their early 20s, anything below 28. I think by about the time you're 28, you've been in the real world a little while, that you're becoming a real adult at that time. Anything younger than that, and guys, I mean, in particular, anything younger than that, and you're just dumb. You think you know everything, but that's
you're reminding me of how you had to be 25 in order to rent a car. That's it. Why 25? But it does seem like your rationale there applies to the rental car business, especially for guys.
Yeah. So I told you before, when I interviewed the head guy that came and looked at the place, I mean, they're professionals working out of DC, and the other's a software programmer, and very professional, very smart. I mean, the conversations I've had with them where lights are on, everyone's home, but I have a mug that looks exactly like that. That's it. It's growing pains. Live and learn. But it got me through COVID. I had a family in here. A family in here from New York for the first 5 months of that. And they were exceptional people. God, I would love to have them back. Then I had these 3 guys for the following 6 months. So it did get me through COVID. So I don't, in the end, I could have been eating that monthly nut,
I know. I remember a year ago at this time, you were very concerned that you were going to be able to fill the vacancy there. And then you had the miracle people. I think they were from New York, right?
Yes.
Come on down. And we were talking about how, oh boy, escape from New York, because boy, it was pretty bad in New York at that time. And here you are a year later, you've basically had a full capacity the whole time.
I did. Very lucky.
Great success right there.
So now I'm back to Airbnb. So those were private leases, renting. So now I'm back to Airbnb. And the nice thing about that is well, first of all, I've decided to decline people that don't have any reviews, again, based on past experience. But I have the demand, though. I can do that. I'm in an area that I can I can make up for that. So if people that have good reviews, hey, it's good all day long. They get it,
Right.
And so they take care of your place. They want the good review. I want the good review. Then I get to come in here and just after these guys leave at the end of June, I'm going to paint the one side of my house. And then I got a 1 weeker coming in after that, and then we'll see what happens. So anyways, I think it's a really good side gig.
Yeah. It sounds like it. And then you mentioned, repairs to your house and painting. I mean, just for the viewers, that's all tax deductible stuff, right?
Yes. Oh, that's a really good point, because any trip to Home Depot and all that is completely goes to under my home repairs allocation.
It's all those repairs, right?
Oh yeah, every one of them.
That's there it is, right there. That's a beautiful business, and I appreciate you sharing those insider tips with us too, because people look at this and it's, should I get involved? Can I get involved? And there's some upsides and downsides to everything, and it helps to have somebody who's walked a mile in those shoes to be able to help us.
It does. To that end, Lisa, every now and then we'll say, look, why do you do it? Why don't you just sell that place? Why stop? Well, you sell it and you get rid of your asset. Your asset's no longer making money for you. And the other thing is, do you know of any perfect way to make money where it's not a challenge?
No, not yet. But I would like for whoever does know that, we invite you onto the show.
Hey, exactly.
We'll give you unlimited time.
And that reminds me, I just wanted to say that I've talked about my friend Geza, who is an art director in the movie industry here.
Yeah.
Though he lives in Cleveland. We are going to do the guest podcast. He got his new laptop because he got his laptop stolen when his rental car was broken.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So he's in Chicago working on a movie right now. And but we are going to do his guest spot this weekend. It will be out on Tuesday.
So he works in the movie industry. What exactly does he do in the movie industry?
Well, it's very interesting that he started out as a jewelry designer, then got into website design as a side gig, while he was putting himself through school, taking architecture, becoming an architect. And so then he started this. See, this is why I got to have him on the show. Yeah. So then he started his own company doing architecture, and that somehow led him into the movie industry, building sets, doing set designs.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So that's about as much as I really know. So I can't wait to unpack that with him. And he's fun. He's so fun to talk to. Like, this is going to be that podcast is going to go by so fast. I mean, it's going to be so fun.
Well, it sounds like an intriguing story. How in the world do you go from jewelry to building sets for Hollywood movies? And how exciting is that? It speaks to the power of associations and how that whole thing works. And I was listening to a podcast of not a podcast. It was just a short video. I got a link to it on the show notes, but it was Jordan Peterson, and he was being interviewed, and he was talking about the risk of not taking risks in life. It's such a Jordan Peterson type of a topic, but it goes back to what you were just talking about with your property and taking a risk with your property. And yes, there are upsides and downsides, but if you don't take that risk, then you don't have an asset, and you don't have an asset that's able to be lucrative in down times like you had during this time. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was a really cool concept to think about. And I think about this podcast that we've been doing now. I think, are we on our last episode of the third season, or is this the second to last? I always
pretty sure, now that you bring it up, I'm pretty sure this is 25, second to the last.
So then the next one is next week. But here we are at the end of the third season, and this is something we took a risk on. And last week we got together and we collaborated on another podcast that I'm a part of, which is Cyber Talk, and you were there talking about brain hijacking. I thought that was a really great episode that we got together and talk. And this week we actually had a continuation of that same topic with Wayne Lowenstein, who is the CEO of VFT Solutions, and is a pretty neat guy. This guy does pretty much everything. He's a litigator and a technologist and an author, and he's co-founder of this business. But what they do is they protect online streaming services from pirates that steal these shows. Like, for instance, if there's going to be a fight on, how they do pay-per-view. Yeah. And what they're able to prove that through venues like Facebook and YouTube, literally these venues are having millions and millions of dollars stolen from them, and their what do you call it, it's their IP, their personal Well, it's their asset that they're stealing from. I can't think of the word for it. But anyway, he showed me actually how they're able to do this business and protect, like, let's say, for instance, it's the WWF and they put out WrestleMania. Well, they know that there's going to be literally tens of millions of dollars worth of services that are just going to be stolen through these venues like YouTube and Facebook. And what they've learned, and Wayne actually put an article out on Forbes this week on this, is and I'll just read this interesting thing that he says. It's sort of a new way of looking at this kind of thing. Of course, he says if we don't rapidly strike I couldn't bring it up fast enough. Well, the fact of the matter is they confront these pirates head on. And he showed me an example of somebody watching this streaming video. What happens is if they steal it, they've got a way of tracking who's watching that stealing, and they can put verbiage up on their screen that talks about the penalty for stealing this type of material. And then they can watch the population of those pirates drop off like flies instantly. It's an amazing type of service, but in the face of this cyber warfare that's happening and piracy and stealing of our personal information and things like that, there's companies out there that are out there to protect us from these types of things. I think it's also interesting to think about how we don't see the government rushing in to protect us against these things. And it seems like it's the private population here, the private business population that really needs to come together, maybe in co-ops or something like that, to really protect us from a real tangible threat that's happening to our own private freedoms and our security.
Everything that you just said there is very interesting to me, and I'm only learning more and more about this recently.
Me too.
Yeah, and I like that Rex is on the forefront of that. We talk about our own content, that we put out all this content, and who does it really benefit? Well, it benefits YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. It draws their viewers and their audience in. So then you talk about the pirating, and YouTube, the people put, like you said, maybe WWF stuff up on YouTube, and that's where things get dicey right away. Now, who's liable? Is it the private user of that account?
Yeah. Yep.
Or is it YouTube? Yeah, there's all of that.
It's a messy world when it comes to this, and we need people like Wayne Lowenstein to help us through those turbulent waters. And fortunately, there are people out there, there are companies out there, and I think the more we can talk about these kinds of things, the better off really the population in general is, because there are wolves in sheep's clothing out there, and we have to be careful of that. We're constantly hearing about these online attacks, and gosh, I work in the healthcare industry, and this ransomware thing that's happening out there, where they can shut down an entire hospital unless they actually give up millions of dollars, and they do it through things like Bitcoin or whatever, so you can't track this. But what they'll do is they'll hold the system for ransom, and if they don't pay, all of their data is lost. And the data is patient-centric data, the data that they need in order to treat the patient. So it puts a whole hospital of people in jeopardy, especially the ones that are in critical care. And these people just don't care. They're just looking for the money. And I think that's just sick. I hope that, people like that should be thrown under the jail.
Oh, yeah, to say the least. And then you mentioned a few minutes ago that the government's not here helping us. There's such a gridlock there. For one, most of our politicians aren't educated enough at all. Look at our president. The guy's hardly worked a day in his life. Another thing that Jordan Peterson, I learned from him a week or two ago, is he was interviewing someone, but I remember he said that our cognitive aptitude starts to decline at age 25. Think about that. So that's why it gets harder to learn like a second language and all that after that. But he also said, and he goes, you're never going to believe this, but by far, he said, by far the number one thing that will keep you cognitively aligned or increase your aptitude is exercise. It's not crossword puzzles. It's not, any of that. It's exercise.
Interesting.
So, interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. But so I think the discussion was about how people that are in the you could say quantum physics field or computer fields and stuff like that will just smoke somebody that is trying to that has been in the field, like is 57 years old, been in the field their whole life with all the decades of experience. No, that young person will smoke that 57-year-old in no time because of where they're at cognitively. They already have all that person's experience to draw from, to learn from, and then to completely leapfrog it from there.
Well, that's the trick is, will they listen and be mentorable? I guess if that's true. Even a word, right? Because what you see is a lot of people coming out and not really realizing the value of that resource that they have in their workplace, where the people that have been there, done that, the ones that can take advantage of that knowledge bank, those are the people that are going to be able to leapfrog, and the mentors of those people want to see that happen. When you find somebody, I mean, here I am over 50, right? When I find somebody that wants to, that really wants to learn, that really understands the value of that experience, man, I'll invest my time in that person gratis. I mean, there's a joy to be able to help somebody like that. And so my advice for younger people out there is find that person, make sure they have a good track record, and listen to them and be coachable. Put your pride away. That's a big deal right there. Hey, Barry, I want to transition real quick. This past week, I also had an experience with, I told you about the the Bible study that that we've been doing. It's pretty cool stuff. We've been doing it for a little over a year now, and it's every other week. My mom and my stepfather, they're the ones that really host it. It's their Bible study.
Nice.
They let me guest host every once in a while, but I got to say, they're doing such a great job of this. And what's so wonderful is they've got a venue where people come in, and they're literally coming in on Zoom, and they're all over the country, and they can just talk, and they can, ask questions, and it's just a really safe place to do that. And that's something that my mom and Larry have created. So we had this particular one was an experiment that we did, and we just opened it up, like just what we usually have a subject. But this time we just said whatever's on your mind. And it was interesting because it really what was on their mind was what's happening with America and what's happening. You mentioned the president, what's happening with the president, and we're very concerned. And as I was hosting it, I'm thinking, okay, this is a Bible study. I'm not here to, it's not over 50 starting over, just talk about current events and everything. But what we were able to do is take it from there to and raise it up a level and say, okay, there are problems that are happening here in the country and in the world, but what does God say about how to deal with hard times, and what are some of the tools that God has given us and to deal with these? And we had a really great open discussion where the group in general, each person seemed to have their own take and based on the Bible, and everyone collaborated in this beautiful symphony of help and healing and uplifting each other. And we ended the meeting just all laughing together, and we were out of there. We were all very uplifted. So I just think that, kudos to my mom and Larry for putting that together. I hope more people are doing that. And speaking of that, Barry, I know we're about close to the current event thing. This past week, the Supreme Court actually passed, or they this whole case that they just settled was for home Bible studies out here in California. You weren't able to have that. I think it was if you had more than 3 people in your house, you weren't able to have Bible study. So the churches have been shut down for over a year, which is crazy. I've never heard of that happening in America. And not only that, but you can't meet for Bible study. And the state was arguing that, okay, yeah, but it's not just Bible study. We're not allowing people to get together in their homes, which is also pretty crazy. But the court decided that, hey, the First Amendment stands. These people, they're harmed by not being able to get together. And by the way, the state was coming back and saying, we're going to open up the state in a couple of weeks, so you don't need to do this. But they did it anyway. And I think it set a precedent. And I think it's a victory for the First Amendment.
I do too. I'm glad to hear that because, I'm getting my second dose of vaccine here this afternoon.
Oh, this afternoon. Okay. That's news. How do you feel about that? I mean, the second one can be daunting.
No, I don't, I think the first one, I had a conversation with my colleague, Nancy Valent, yesterday. She's in marketing, but we were talking about the vaccine, and she said that she didn't have any effects whatsoever. Everybody else says, oh my God, my arm was so sore. I felt sick for half a day and things like that. Yeah. She goes, I didn't have anything at all, except I was, she said I was so freaking tired that I had to take a nap the one afternoon. And then the next night I slept for 13 hours. I was like, me too. I never heard anyone else say that. I had exactly that happen to me as well, but it lasted for quite a while. So there's that, but how do I feel about it? I'm completely elated and excited because I just want that feeling of relative invulnerability when I get it, and I want to get by this mask thing very quickly. And here's how I feel about it. From here on, as more and more of us, I think 25% of the country is vaccinated now.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot. It
is. That is.
At this point, I think that we should do away with the mask mandate and leave it completely voluntary. And for all you dopes that want to give people dirty looks and snide comments, put on your mask. You'll be fine. Put on your damn mask. Stay at home if you feel afraid. Go ahead.
It's interesting, Barry. All the way up until this COVID epidemic or pandemic, I guess, that type of logic was really the logic of the world since the beginning of the world. And really it took COVID-19 to really flip that whole thing. So, you just said, hey, if you're uncomfortable, wear a mask, or, if you feel threatened, if you feel like you're unsafe, wear a mask. And somehow I don't want to say propaganda, but it felt like propaganda was that, hey, you have to wear a mask for everybody else. There's a big billboard down my street that says, be kind, wear a mask. They flipped it. So it's not, you're not wearing a mask for yourself anymore. You got to wear it for other people. So what naturally came out of that is if you aren't wearing a mask, everybody wants to shame you. I mean, it's back to the shame thing again, the shame game.
Always.
And I like what you're saying. I feel like the big battle with masks and us getting, I believe we're going to get away from that too, Barry, but I think that the battle is going to be right there. It's going to be this non-scientific us and them kind of thing. And, you're being unfair to society, and is going to be sort of the social justice warrior kind of person out there with this. And I think that's going to be the real battle when it comes to how quickly we're going to be able to get away from masks. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with science. I think it's going to have everything to do with the psychological damage that has happened because of all of the information propaganda that's come out of all these different talking heads.
Yeah. And God, it's that way with everything. And even as we're going to segue into current events. I feel like I'm going to say, I was thinking about this yesterday. I feel like I'm going to say the same thing every show now. And that is they're just trying to divide and conquer us with absolutely everything. So everything's politicized, everything's racist, everything's sexist, just to create a big smoke screen so they can continue to get paid. Government officials can get paid by their lobbyists, special interest groups. And I mean, look at the idiots that are politicians and that have been in there for their entire lives, that I don't seem like they could make it in the real world. And yet they continue to thrive in this political arena because all they do is continue this whole charade.
I agree with you. I mean, because it seems to be in this environment, the political environment that they have lived in all of their lives, is the truth is something to be manipulated in order to get votes. And you know, in business, you immediately lose your reputation and you can't get another job after that. So this is the difference. And, you know, we're living it. I wanted to ask you, Barry, what you think about this move. I think we talked about it a little bit. I think we talked about Delta Airlines and Major League Baseball. But since last week, we've seen hundreds of companies now and CEOs sign on to a document that they're saying is all about voting restrictions and how they're all against these new laws that are coming out that are restricting the vote. And I haven't really seen a movement like this ever before. And I wanted to get your thoughts on how are you seeing this?
Well, I'm certainly not as well educated on that as you are. I only kind of read the headlines on it. I don't read the articles because I don't find it very interesting. But voting restrictions, I've said all along, get a driver's license. Now you're eligible to vote. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. What further restrictions are you talking about?
That's a good question, Barry, because what we're seeing is that all of these companies have jumped on to say that there are voting restrictions that are coming fast and furious in red states across the country.
I've heard that. But what are they talking about?
This is the part that goes over my head. I mean, I got to be honest with you, because I don't see it. They're saying that these laws, I mean, our politicians are saying that this is Jim Crow on steroids. And
I've heard that.
I think a lot of people are going, well, who is this Jim Crow guy?
Yeah.
You know, and why is he taking steroids? And so I just wonder how many people are thinking about that. But, you know, the Jim Crow laws absolutely were the bigoted laws that mostly were in the South, but they weren't just in the South. They were in the country where you have the black, the whites only water fountains and the colored water fountains. These are the Jim Crow laws that they're talking about. And they're comparing this to the state voting law. So for instance, in Georgia, they're saying, you know, it's the ID, but they're also saying that they're closing the polls at 5:00, so people that work won't be able to get to the polls on time, and especially black people, because they have to work. But
what?
Well, I guess white people have to work too. But anyway, this is the first off, the whole 5:00 closure, and even Joe Biden talked about it in his one press conference. Not true. They have been open until 7 in Georgia. Nothing's changed. He's quoting an article that came out of the newspaper in Atlanta, which was false, that they have not changed that. In fact, the voting laws in Georgia have expanded under the bill. If you really look at the details of the bill, and I think we talked about this last week, Stacey Abrams, who had her failed run for governor in Georgia, has been campaigning behind the scenes to say that these voting laws she's the one that coined the term. These are Jim Crow on steroid voting laws, but it has nothing to do with any kind of truth whatsoever. Even like we talked about last week, they moved the All-Star game out of Atlanta and they put it into Colorado. But the fact of the matter is that Colorado has more restrictive voting laws than Atlanta does. So none of this makes any sense. And now all of these corporations, over 100 of them, have jumped on board to say these are restrictive laws and we stand against it. But they apparently haven't read any of these laws that are happening. And they're happening because the people have actually voted these people into the legislatures of their states. And these companies are fighting against that. What we saw in the voting for 2020 was a mess. I mean, that was an absolute mess. And it had to do with a lot of these expansions of voting privileges that happened as a result of COVID. Now these states want to be able to pull that back because we're coming out of COVID. And we can't have reckless voting, because what that does is it steals the power of each of our individual votes. That's our whole democracy is based on this. So when you have these companies that are railing against states and states' rights to constitutional rights to manage their own elections, it looks like these companies are standing in the way of our democratic freedoms. What do you say to that?
I faded out at the end. I'm sorry upon that question because I was looking at my notes.
Okay,
please
ask.
So
let me ask this. Let me put it a different way. Coca-Cola is saying that that your state is stealing your voting rights, and the fact of the matter is, you know that they're not. Do you still go out and buy Coca-Cola when they're trying to manipulate your democratic system? A lot of people aren't going to do that. So why would Coca-Cola do that?
Oh, we talked a little bit about that last week, and I feel strongly about that because I brought up that Gillette.
Yes, you did. Right. Why would they do this? I have an answer.
They did a toxic masculinity commercial, and they sell razors.
How can that help them, right? How can that help them?
I looked up both Coke and Gillette. The past few years, they've been on a decline in sales. So I swear I don't get the thought process behind that. Alienate your own audience. I don't get it at all.
Let me run something by you on this here. Is that, could it be that they are lined up with a very powerful political entity within Washington? I'm not saying it's the Democrats or the Republicans. I think there's a set that it doesn't matter if they're Democrats or Republicans. They are just there because of their power. And that these people have seen that connecting up with multinational Fortune 500 companies and the money and the clout that they have enriches them as well. So as we saw with Parler, Google, Amazon, Facebook, all those guys, they were able to collaborate, muscle out their competition without fear of being prosecuted for antitrust violations. You saw them bring them up into Congress. Clearly, they had violated antitrust laws, which are very serious, and we've seen companies actually broken up by Congress, like AT&T, over that kind of thing, getting away scot-free. So in other words, if you play the woke game, you no longer have to play by normal business rules where you have to have the best product and compete with everybody. If you play this game, you'll have competitive advantages that you wouldn't get under normal capitalism. And therefore, it doesn't matter if you alienate customers, where are they going to go? You're the only game in town. Does it seem like that's happening? Because it seems like that's happening, especially in high tech right now.
Oh, that's interesting. I was trying to unravel what you were talking about there. I just got it at the end. So you're saying that they're allowing something of a monopoly in
That's
exchange.
Exactly right.
Oh, boy,
so they get monopoly status, and what they do is they collaborate with the really socialist or fascist entities within our government. And the company wins because they don't have to compete any longer, and they just get a free revenue stream. And the politician wins because they're now enriched and they get to maintain their power. It's a symbiotic relationship. None of that has any kind of allegiance to your personal rights.
Well, I think you went full down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theory right there.
And
I'm kidding.
Theory does not necessarily mean that it's a theory. I don't know this for sure. But look at what it looks like, though.
I was kidding. I wanted to get a reaction out of you. I find what you're saying, like, it's kind of eye-opening to me, and you're probably right. Boy, do I see every bit of evidence that our government is just completely corrupted by lobbyists now, completely bought off by corporations and special interest groups. Look at who our president is, for God's sakes, and how he got in there is meaning how he got through a Democratic primary with way better qualified candidates than him. Yeah, our election was a mess. No, what you're saying is it's scary. Because
look at all the companies. I mean, there's a list that came out this week, Barry, of all the companies that have jumped onto this whole thing, and they all signed a letter of I don't know what it's not a letter of intent, but it's they've all band together and many of them are banning these states. For instance, Georgia is they are completely under attack right now. Here's one. Let me see if I can find this. Georgia. Okay, so Will Smith has a movie that he's doing over there. Let's see. Will Smith became the biggest Hollywood entity to take concrete action to leave Georgia as they announced plans to move production of their new drama about slavery emancipation out of the state to protest its restrictive new election law.
I saw that.
Okay. And then moving the movie will cost the production somewhere in the $15 million range. So just to score points, they're going to purposely lose $15 million. Why would a business throw away $15 million like that? And this goes back to my point that I'm making, Barry, is that they don't care. This is like an investment for them because they get more power by lining up with these power sources.
That aligns with a question I've had, a growing question I've had for several years now, is watching, the big comic book movie and TV show industry. It's pretty huge for the last 10 years or so.
Right.
And the CW is that channel. It has all the Batwoman, Supergirl, all this woke stuff that has horrible ratings. And the comic book industry, they just continuously replace their leading characters like Thor or Spider-Man or something with a woman version.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's like, and you know that the viewership, the audience is just, their sales on that are plummeting, and yet they keep doing it as if they don't have a single marketing person over there that can make a correlation to those numbers, Yes. So to your point, I'm just flabbergasted. There's millions and millions of dollars at stake here. Why do they keep doing this?
And it doesn't make any sense until you look at it through this lens.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Here's one. Another Hollywood celebrity vowed to boycott the state of Georgia. The movie mogul Tyler Perry has called upon the Department of Justice to investigate the state for its voter integrity laws. Okay, Tyler Perry is Atlanta, Georgia. Mm-hmm. He is the favorite son of Atlanta, Georgia. He's made all these movies. By the way, I don't find them entertaining. He dresses up as a woman and he's I can't remember who the character. A lot of people love it though, but he is Georgia. Mm-hmm. And now these companies, why are they that are from Georgia are attacking Georgia over their voting laws? And if you really look at the laws, you can't find what they're talking about. And this is very concerning to me. And it's baffling when you look at Delta Airlines, Coca-Cola, Tyler Perry, all Atlanta-based, attacking their own state.
Wow. Jeez, man. You're sleuthing this whole thing out, aren't you?
Yeah, it's fascinating to me to see, and it doesn't make any sense. And businesses don't ever do things on purpose that would make them less profitable. So there must be a reason for them to do this, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. And so far, this is the one that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, well, I think you're onto something, because I haven't been able to figure out stuff like this either. I've been wondering as well.
Hey, let's move on to another one here, Barry, and that is this young man that got shot this week in Minneapolis, which has caused the riots to happen. And it looks to me like we are going into another season of violence with we had the Summer of Love last year, and it looks like we're going to have the Summer of Love Part 2, unfortunately. So I don't know if you saw this or not, but I saw this kid. He got pulled over, and there's several police officers. I guess he had an expired license. They ask him to jump out of the car. He comes out, doesn't seem like a problem. He's a young black man, and they decide to arrest him. So they start to put the handcuffs on him. It seems like everything's okay for a second. And then suddenly he's resisting arrest, and he's trying to, they can't get the handcuffs on him. He gets into his car. It looks like he's going to drive away. They're telling him to stop, and they're telling him to freeze, all that kind of stuff. One of the police officers shoots him several times. You can hear, it's the body cam footage. You can hear her immediately say, "Oh my God, I shot him." And the fact is that she thought she had pulled out her taser. She pulled out her gun, and she shot him and killed him. Now we've got these riots that are happening. Last night was, I believe, the fourth night of the riots. And in the middle of the Derek Chauvin trial that's happening, which already makes Minneapolis a tinderbox, this happens. And now we've got riots happening. It is insane that this is happening right now, and very disappointing that it's happening too.
What's the common denominator?
Well, here's what we're seeing is
it's simple. It's resisting arrest. Don't resist arrest.
It is resisting arrest. And this is something that I've thought about, is that why resist arrest? Why are these young people, and it seems to, like you're saying, very common. Why is this happening? And I was watching Hannity, and I happened to see this. I rarely ever watch his show, but I happened to see Dan Bongino on with Geraldo Rivera.
I read about it. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people heard about this, and I got to say that it was eye-opening to me. And Geraldo, and we've watched Geraldo pretty much all our lives, right? I mean, the guy has had an amazing life, you got to admit.
Oh, yeah.
But what happened was interesting, because they were asking both of these gentlemen about what they saw. And immediately Geraldo went into this whole thing about young black men being shot, and that black mothers are afraid for their children to go out because they're afraid of these cops that are hunting them. And they just went back and forth on this, because Dan Bongino was saying, well, where's your proof? Where's your statistics? I'm just hearing a lot of emotion coming from you. And it got real ugly, actually.
Yeah, it did.
The point is this. If you start to take a look at the statistics here, you'll find that it's not a race problem that we're seeing here. Has it happened before? Yes, but this isn't the main problem that's happening right now. No, we've gone through all the statistics. The point is that Dan Bongino, I thought, made a really great point. You got a young guy here that's getting arrested. What is he thinking? Could he be thinking that everything that he hears on the news is that police are trying to kill young black people like him? I mean, it doesn't make sense for a young guy to run like that when they have guns and you don't.
One second, though. One thing that, as always, you don't never get the full story until you dig at it a few days later, right? Because they want to get the divisive stuff out there, the headlines.
That's exactly right.
That young man had a warrant out for his arrest. I forget what it was for. Something serious. So it
was gun possession. There's something about a gun. So already they were on edge. That's exactly right. He's resisting arrest, but why? And could it be that he thought that the best chance for his survival would be to run? And it seems like people like Geraldo Rivera and many people in the news are just really pumping up that emotional story to cause people to believe that's exactly what's going to happen, and you're going to have to run. And we're seeing it all the time, which is really what puts these people in jeopardy. The message should be comply. There's no law out there that says when a police officer gives you an order or a directive that you have a choice to obey or not. You listen to the police officer. Young people, it doesn't matter if you're black or white. Last year, 28 unarmed people were shot. Of those 20 that were unarmed, of those 28 people that were shot, 19 of them were white and 9 of them were black. Okay. So this is what we're seeing, is that white people are getting shot like this too. And it happens to people. We're just comply, work it out. After you might have to go to jail, but work it out with your attorney. It's not worth losing your life over and having your city get burned down, because that's what's happening out there.
Yeah, no. And think about years gone by, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when we were young and coming up. Any confrontation that I had with police growing up, the rebellious person that I was rebellious, but I wasn't a criminal. But boy, they had no accountability. There were no body cams. There were no people didn't have cameras on them, as everybody does now. So they were pretty bad back then. With power, with the power, comes the arrogance and everything else.
Yes.
So my point is, you're way safer with cops now. Today, they have body cams. You have a camera. You mentioned the statistics. What I got to say is, I said it before, I would hate to be a cop today.
That would be so tough.
No way. So that woman that shot that kid, she retired, quit, what have you. So she did resigned. The chief of police over this, and now you got people burning down the city.
It's a tragedy all around. It's a tragedy.
We got to wake up, people. We are being manipulated.
That's absolutely the truth.
Always trying to keep us divided, trying to keep you incited. The media does it for ratings and part of the whole conspiracy, seriously, with the government. And the government wants to do it so they can just pass all the special interest crap through and keep getting paid.
Well, there's this whole thing that they use events like this to promote, which is defund the police and or declaw the police. Don't let them have weapons. And it's an interesting discussion, which could turn out to be very dangerous for the nation. And I think we need to stay tuned on this. While that's happening, this woman, Kim Porter, was the one that, or Potter is the one that shot this young man. And I got to say, boy, her life is what a terrible thing she's going to have to deal with going here. And now you could tell from the video that you knew that this was an accident. I mean, from everything, it had nothing to do with, is this a black person or a white person? It had to do with the fact that these are things that police officers have to deal with, and it's tough. And it makes it tougher when the general population is afraid of the police officers and think that they have to run for their lives. While we're watching this whole thing in Minneapolis, we've got the George Floyd trial that's happening and how terrible that is, which kicked off the Summer of Love last year. Meanwhile, you've got this news that's come out is that no charges against the officer that shot Ashley Babbitt in the Capitol. And I just think it's an interesting contrast when you saw this officer shoot Ashley Babbitt, who was all of 5'1", and she was coming through that one narrow window. It didn't seem like we needed to use deadly force to stop her from coming in. She could have easily been restrained if she came through there. But here are the words of her lawyer about this particular, or his lawyer about this particular incident. He said he used tremendous restraint in only firing one shot, and his actions stopped the mob from breaking through and turning a horrific day in American history into something so much worse, which that's a bunch of speculation. I don't know that that saved that from happening or not. And anyway, but her lawyer said, I find it to be baffling given the circumstances, that it's a clear case of shooting an unarmed person without any legal justification. And it seems like the tale of two cities when you take a look at the decisions that are being made, and it's kind of worrisome, Barry.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think we should start winding down a bit. Do you have anything else?
I got one other, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Project Veritas is out there. They're pretty interesting people if you ever get a chance to check them out online. But they caught CNN. The CNN technical director admits we got Trump out of office. I'm just going to read what he said and what he was caught on tape saying. He says, I came to CNN to be a part of that. CNN's Charlie Chester admits, and the revelation may fit the intuitions of many who have watched the network over the course of the Trump years. But here's what he said. Look what we did. We, CNN, got Trump out. I'm 100% going to say it and 100% believe that if it wasn't for CNN, I don't know that Trump would have got voted out. I came to CNN because I wanted to be a part of that. Now that recording is out there. Is it true? I don't know. He's saying it. But
I think it's true. And they killed their own,
I think it is too.
And they killed their own ratings as a result.
They did. It makes you wonder, why would they do that? It goes back to what we talked about before. But here's the thing is that Twitter now has completely censored for life the Project Veritas reporter that put this out. So isn't that something? Is you put this kind of stuff out, the truth, and you get censored. It's interesting. Project Veritas was the one that had those people from, they were talking to the heads of the Planned Parenthood about selling body parts, and those people ended up going to court here in California. The Attorney General here in California, rather than going after Planned Parenthood, went after Project Veritas, those particular reporters, and those people are now steeped in huge legal procedures. Their lives are ruined. Oh, who was the Attorney General? It was Kamala Harris.
Anyway. It's amazing to me, the power of Twitter. It's all I hear about every day is cancel culture and Twitter and people committing suicide because of the criticism on Twitter. Why go on there?
I hear you. Twitter has its.
They don't question it though. It's like well, I couldn't breathe without being on Twitter.
I know. It goes back to the whole addictive technology and the things that they themselves have said about the psychological, taking advantage of human psychological vulnerabilities that have been studied for the last 100 years. And they're doing it, and they're not ashamed to admit that they're doing it. So that is what's happening.
All right. Okay. What do you say we lighten this up?
Yay.
Okay, we got to go into our after show pretty soon here, but I wanted to share a consumer review. And for those of you actually watching the video, hey, you want a sneak peek at the Hollywood? You did not give me a photo. I keep asking.
I wasn't able to get that to you. Sorry about that.
You need to I'm going to put you on the right side.
Oh, cool.
The other side. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. And then at the end of it, we'll go to.
That's all, folks.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
I love that. That's really cool.
It just makes the show a little more fun for those that are watching. Created some cool, fun banners. But what I wanted to show you is, remember a few weeks ago, I gave the tips about the iPhone, buying a new iPhone, getting that much cheaper. What do you call that? AT&T's rival, a consumer I forget their name, but go back and check out that show. What I forgot to tell you guys about is during all that research, I discovered this Tozo wireless charger. Oh. And that's what this is. I've bought 2 of these now because a common problem I've always had with iPhones is that eventually you get dust into this receptor and it gets hard to charge them.
It does.
To make the connection.
Have the same thing, right?
And then
I was like, what's wrong? Yeah.
You got to go to the Apple store and they have this special little pin like thing to pick the dust out, and then you're good for another couple months. Well, here's the thing. This little disc for $10, you plug it in, it has a USB charger plug, a plug wire. And you just set your phone on it. I'm trying to find the camera. Just set your phone on it like that and it charges even through, you see, I got this. There's another tip for you. This pocket thing that I keep on the back of my phone. I never carry a wallet. I never carry cash. I just have my debit card.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I grab this and my keys. I'm good to go. That's all. But this wireless charger, it works so good. As soon as you put it on there, it just starts charging and don't have to worry about a connection. Now, what I will say is with my second purchase of this, I tried a competitor, not the Tozo. I tried a different brand that
was it Mophie?
No, definitely not. It's some China. Oh, okay. No, it wasn't that one. But the other one looked exactly like Tozo, but it was hard to make a connection. Like I had to press on it and wiggle it and all this.
Yeah.
So I sent it back and got another Tozo, and I couldn't be happier.
I noticed on mine
$10 on Amazon.
And that's pretty cool because the Mophie that I have, and Mophie's got a great name, but I do notice that sometimes I put it on there and it doesn't charge.
Oh, yeah, you need a Tozo. Yeah, absolutely. You never have a problem with that. It's only
interesting. Yeah. Good stuff.
I need to get kickbacks from this.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Well,
pretty good.
With that, I have several different videos that I could share with you. I want to show you this one real quick. It's really funny. And it's a very quick one. It's this, it's called, wait a minute. Did I do it? Share. Okay.
Here it comes. Yes.
Okay. First date. Nervous raccoon tries to make a move on this cat. This is like me in high school. Watch this.
Look at that cat.
All right. So for those listening, this raccoon and cat are sitting side by side, and he moves his little paw over there that touched the cat. Then he moves his nose over there, and the cat bats him in the face
and then leaves.
Yeah. So that was
your experience in high school, huh?
Yeah, always. Yeah. All right. So you got anything else you want to wind this up?
Yeah, let's wind it up.
Okay. Hey, thanks for being with us, everyone. Go to over50startingover.com to get these links and see all this stuff for yourself. All right, Merle. Everybody, we'll see you next week.
All right, Barry.